Hi, and good day to all of you. So, for our listeners, how cool would it be to shift, tweak, pivot, and be more in the mindset of how you can succeed in adversity and change? It would be useful, right? Well, welcome. That is the focus of the podcast today, as the Business of Life Masterclass podcast episode is all about being present and being aware of what's happening and how to handle it. So greetings again, everyone. It's Debbie Lundberg, performance coach, remote work rockstar author, and the founder and CEO of Presenting Powerfully.
Barb Zant here, media sales leader and founder of the lifestyle brand and blog, Stay at Work Mom. So Mark, welcome today. We asked you on because you're an expert in building businesses and turning adversity into new and better opportunities. Pretty darn cool. The reason that is important to our listeners is because all of us will face adversity in both our business and personal lives, and we can all benefit by being more prepared and also by being able to pivot, which is that key word of 2020, to better outcomes. So glad you are here today. Could you tell us in 10 words or less, what made you want to be on our show specifically?
Yeah, first of all, Barb and Debbie, thanks for having me. I'm a big fan of your podcast, so that's part of my answer. Specifically, what I love about your podcast is that you instill real world wisdom gained from real life experiences. And you do that in 18 minutes or less. So that's a great way to get educated.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. Thanks, Mark. This topic is both timely and important to so many, and our listeners may have learned we changed it up a little bit. Barb gave you a little bit of insight even before we heard everything about Mark, because we're so excited. So a little bit more there before we give Mark the 4 questions. Believe us that there's so much we could say. Our guest is someone who believes in following your own dreams. And starting in childhood, he dreamed of a career in ocean exploration. Today, believe it or not, he is among the very few who are so fortunate to make their living pursuing his passion. He's the chairman and chief executive officer of Odyssey Marine Exploration, which is a NASDAQ traded company engaged in deep ocean exploration and environmentally sensitive discovery and extraction of seabed minerals, utilizing innovative methods and state-of-the-art technology. Sounds pretty cool, right? So from being a diver to being the driver behind what with this team, he's the master of that pivot. Please welcome a fellow honorary commander at MacDill Air Force Base of mine and a very intriguing, fun, and approachable leader, Mark Gordon. So Mark, welcome again.
Yeah, it's great being here with both of you. Really, I'm looking forward to this.
Well, thanks. And as Barb said, we are just thrilled with that 2020, 2021 idea of the pivot. We appreciate that you enjoy the podcast. So we are moving on to our podcast for those 4 questions we ask each of our guests. You're probably ready, right, Mark?
I am.
You are? Okay. So all right, here it goes. What time do you get up in the morning, and what is your daily routine to get your day started right?
Okay, so first of all, I'll disclose the nature of our operation is literally worldwide. I have people right now, staff and partners operating in the South Pacific and also over in Europe. So we literally span the time zones. So I'm generally up between 5:30 and 6 a.m. without setting an alarm. That's just my natural pattern. And because we have these worldwide operations, my habit is to do a quick check-in just to make sure there weren't any things that happened while I was sleeping that have to be dealt with. And then as soon as I can after that, I'm out training. I try to get in 60 to 90 minutes every day of some intense training. I do endurance cycling, but I think any form of exercise is an important way to get your day started.
Sounds like a good way to start. And you humbly shared that about the riding, but you've really taken that on recently, and you've participated in some fundraising for it, which is also inspirational. So thank you.
Yeah. Another pivot, by the way, because, when the gym closed, I had to figure out something else to do. So I got into cycling.
There you go. And now you're really mastering it. Yeah. We'll see what happens next. All right. So number 2, what is something other than that morning routine of up on your own without the alarm and checking in and then the intense workout that you believe if other people would do it, that would set them up for success? We often say this is that extra or that's something special that you do.
Yeah. So for me, it's a little guided meditation. It doesn't have to be long, 10 to 15 minutes. Now there are so many free apps. You don't have to be a Zen master to do this. But I do find what that does is it gets me centered. It also activates the other part of your brain, the more creative side of your brain. So I think it sets you up for having a strong start and a more creative start as you start then getting back into your workday.
And is that before or after the cycling or the intense workout?
Yeah, generally after.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Thanks. So number 3, who or what has been your biggest influence in your life, in your success, and how have you utilized that influence?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, while I was in college, I had the good fortune of meeting a very successful businessman that was willing to take me under his wing. I'd go out on walks with him and some of his friends, and each one of them were covers of Fortune magazine and Barron's. It was an amazing group of business leaders, and so at a relatively young age, I got exposed to these people that had achieved great success. And two things came from that. One, I realized that the only thing they all had in common was that they had started their own businesses at relatively young ages in their 20s. So I set a goal to start my own company in my 20s, which I did. I started my own business at 28 and built 4 companies prior to joining Odyssey Marine. The second thing that he impressed upon me was the importance of ongoing business mentorship and coaching. And he was a member of a group called Young Presidents Organization. So I decided that if someone this successful was going to be a member of a group like that, which is more about peer mentorship, working with other leaders to enhance your own leadership skills, I was going to set it as a goal to build a business that would be big enough where I would be invited to join Young Presidents Organization, which I was about 20 years ago now, over 20 years ago, and I've been an active member ever since. So, I'm not promoting that single organization, but I think a group of peer mentors, people you could get together with, exchange ideas, is a great way to accelerate your growth. So I took what I learned from my mentor in the early days, set a couple of goals, and now have leveraged off those goals.
Sounds like some humility in that, being willing to listen to others and then share back. So what a great message for all of us to be reminded of.
I think
all right.
So.
Our 4th question. While our series and ultimately our master class really focuses on the positive and how we move forward in life, Mark, are there things or something in particular that you've noticed that in society right now that people are doing that you feel is holding them back, that if they stop doing it, it could be something important and move them forward?
Yeah, I thought about this a little bit. I think the stop doing is stop doing anything that you're not passionate about. Don't just go to work for a paycheck. It took me a long, by the way, speaking from experience, I did not realize this for a long time. The companies I built that I referred to earlier were in data networking, which was not something I was passionate about, but it was a way to make money. Moving to what my passion is, which is working on the ocean by joining Odyssey 16 years ago now, really reinforced for me that if you're doing something and you're not passionate about it, if you don't look forward to getting up and starting your day, and if you're looking at your watch throughout the day to see when you could get home, that's a good sign that you should stop doing whatever that is and try to do something you're passionate about. I try to instill that in my own children now. Hopefully I can impart that learning where they'll get it sooner than I did.
Well, and to your point, it may be that how many times are you checking your watch, and are you checking it to get home, or are you checking it to see how much more you get to do in your day? Right. I can imagine that. Well, wow. Thanks so much, Mark. I mean, we've already gotten so many nuggets, and I see Barb smiling. So we really appreciate that. What do you think, Barb?
I'm super happy. Now our listeners get to hear what your family does as well. Super insightful. Thank you so much, Mark. Here are a few of the encouraging items that I noted from your responses that I plan to incorporate. Short meditation. I'm usually doing 30 minutes, which is a little bit longer. And so I would do it more often. Short. I'm going to try that. Cycling. I have not done that in my morning routine, and we live in a beautiful area. I'm close to Bayshore. I'm going to work on that. And do more of the things that I love and less of the things that I don't. I'm really going to think about that this weekend and work on that. So Debbie, usually your list is pretty similar, but this time it might not be. I know you do what you love all the time. Are you willing to also integrate some, if not all of these things in the next, 5 to 15 days so we can share our results based on Mark's experience and answers?
I'm happy to, Barb. And as a matter of fact, it made me think about my bike. Like I ride the Peloton, but up the bike outside, I'd be happy to. We'll get it down from its hanging over one of our cars in the garage. So that can be a good challenge. And just thinking about that morning side. I mean, Mark and I share that I like to have that intensity. And certainly I can check in and make sure it's up to the level that it should be, because as I'm hearing Mark, when I say should, it's like for that energy and for that heart rate. So I'll check in on that. Mark teased me a little bit saying that we might be eating worms. So I was fully prepared to eat worms if that's what he said. So all of these, while they can be a challenge, they are sans the worm. So I'll certainly do them.
Yeah. And that 90 minutes, I'm going to push my morning routine a little bit. Okay, Mark, as though that wasn't enough rich information, as we wrap up, what is your final thought? Please. This is a quick comment or statement, maybe a single fact that our listeners haven't gotten to hear yet.
Yeah, and I think it builds on the passion statement, which is personal happiness, right? Try to stay focused on personal happiness. I try to use that as a guide when I'm making decisions in life in general. Will that make me happy or won't it? Which is just a variation on the theme of, can I be passionate about it?
Oh, of course we love it. I see Barb smiling. And even though we end up doing some things that we don't love, we tend to encourage everybody to do them in order to get to those that we do love. So that idea of, is this going to enhance that happiness or passion, is a really smart way for us to recenter, and for our listeners to check in about, there's so many events coming up, and sometimes we're simply saying yes or putting it on our calendar. And with Mark's advice, it could be, is this going to be something that's really worthwhile to do so that you're fully present? And that brings us back to what we talked about at the beginning of, you believe in following those dreams and really being present and focused. So thank you again, Mark. And listeners, you probably want to know, how can you learn more? And we teased a little bit about that pivot, and Mark has an incredibly impressive story about years ago, how Odyssey changed completely in the way that they not only did business and their entire focus, and how Mark led that. So Mark is available on social media, both at Odyssey Marine Exploration and Mark D. Gordon, most everywhere. And really excited about the fact that if you happen to be in Tampa Bay, you can hear Mark speak and see him too on December 7th at the Center Club in Tampa at West Shore and Kennedy Boulevards. It's called Breakfast with an Executive, where he's going to share more about that story and how one day completely changed not only his life, his focus, his endeavors, and it involves, little teaser here, the original WikiLeaks. So that's December 7th. That will be in our notes. Very similarly, you can follow Barb and me on Instagram at the Business of Life Masterclass, Barb at the Stay at Work Mom, and I'm Debbie Lundberg most everywhere. So if you like the positivity, the purpose, and overall this idea of following your passion, then please rate us 5 stars. We are committed to bringing 5-star guests to you like Mark Gordon, and we're so appreciative of his energy and authenticity.
So stay tuned for our follow-through episode in 5 to 15 days about how Debbie and I did implementing Mark's ideas. So thank you for joining us for this episode of the Business of Life Masterclass, the podcast for successful people embracing every chance to accomplish and experience all you can in business and in life. Listen, choose, do. Thank you.
Thank you.